And welcome back to Pick and Roll with Carter and Kody. So excited to be back here for episode 4. Today's episode is going to be the March Madness Final Four breakdown and transfer portal preview. I am one of the hosts of Pick and Roll, Kody Webb, and I am, of course, joined by my co-host Carter Sims, who hopefully does not enter the podcast portal himself. But yeah, how are we doing today, Carter?
I would only enter the portal if it means I'm leaving Jackson and joining you permanently, replacing Corbin.
Wow.
I'm doing great. I'm repping my Jim Nance collection by Vineyard Vines, and I'm ready to seize the day and wrap up the last season of college basketball, which was a wild one. So happy to talk it with you.
100%. I'm jacked to be here. And as I mentioned, we're just going to quickly kind of break down the Final Four and some of our favorite moments overall from the tournament. First off, I mean, shout out Jim Nance, legend gone in the industry, I would say. And this being his last Final Four, I think it was a good one for him. Nice of you for supporting him through your Vineyard Find as well.
Of course, have to.
100%. But I said we jump straight into it, talk about these Final Four games, because there was a lot of craziness that went down. Yeah, I'll throw it over to you as well. I mean, that first game of San Diego State FAU was just absolutely madness.
Yeah, definitely the highlight of the two games that happened in the Final Four. And I know definitely for you, you're a big Miami guy over there. But yeah, the San Diego State game was awesome. I mean, some would call it the Florida Atlantic Magic, but I think you and I both agree that they were pretty amazing all year. Like they lost 4 games all year, 5 games when it was said and done.
Most wins in D1 at the end of the year too. Just crazy.
Yeah, and now people are like, I mean, you could technically call them a Cinderella, but I mean, on paper they were a 9 seed, but I think they were much better than that. So I was excited to see that run. I was sad to see it end, just because we're Mountain West haters, and I think we were silenced this year, perhaps. So yeah, I just thought it really just one of those things where it comes down to last play and Lamont Butler with the amazing buzzer beater. And what was it, the first buzzer beater in a Final Four game when the team is down? Was that a stat that I read or something like that? Something like that.
Yeah, because I mean there have been a few. I mean, obviously the Jalen Suggs shot, but the game was tied, obviously. So it being in that moment where you're down 1, there's only 1 second left, like just unbelievable pressure. So shout out, Lamont Butler off the top here as well.
Did you think live that he had his foot stepped out of bounds on that play on the baseline there? Because a lot of people were like, "Oh, he went out of bounds," and blah 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 blah.
Yeah, I honestly did.
Yeah,
but then
I did too. Kind of
like the shot too. I was like, "Oh, that's going in 100%."
Yeah.
But yeah, that like slow-mo replay of him just like skidding right before the line,
incredible.
The classic one as well. But honestly, one of the best games in the tournament too. FAU showed up. Elijah Martin, I believe, had like 25, 26, which I think was high for the tournament. And San Diego State's offense came to play. I mean, this was by far the most points they had scored in the tournament up to that point as well. And we kind of had in our prediction show in the last one too, we were like, it could go either way. It could come down to the last shot. I picked FAU, of course, and you picked San Diego State. So props to you. But a really, really fun game. And the second game was not as fun. I mean, you can't really compare it to that first one.
Yeah.
And my boys, the Hurricanes. I became a Hurricane fan over the span of March this year. They had it was an okay ending. They kind of didn't show up as well offensively as they had played. Wooga Poplar, who was my DiVincenzo pick, I believe 0 points. So not
nothing from Poplar.
Yeah, Wooga. He may have missed some sleep the night before or something, but
he was nervous.
I mean, it just shows
he heard the podcast and was like, "Oh no, I've got these butterflies. I got to impress Kody." Tough.
Too much pressure from Wooga. I mean, it's really just UConn's dominance, I think. And I'll throw it over to you, but yeah, they're big guys. I mean, pretty much just dominated the Final Four in general.
Yeah, this was just from the get-go. Like, I mean, this is what Indiana fans were rationalizing when we played them, that our bigs would be their bigs would be no match for like Trace Jackson Davis. And it turned out to be the case in this game because Sonogo went for like 21 and 10. Yep. Wong and Miller, they had good games. The guard play was decent, but they weren't really getting much help from anyone else, and especially on the defensive end and with the big man. So Sonogo kind of dominated and just kind of out of their depth, Miami, but not to discredit the year that Miami had. I mean, I don't think anyone would have assumed the cream of the crop of the ACC this year would have been the Miami Hurricanes. So shout out to them for not for beating the Dukes and the UNCs of the world. And the UNCs of the world wasn't hard to do, but shout out to them.
Yeah, true. And those three Final Four teams who were not the winners, just really cool stories for them all year. First time all three of those have ever been in the Final Four. So yeah, obviously nothing to hang their heads on there. And then yeah, moving on to the championship game too. It was a fun one. I mean, San Diego State hung around a little bit more than I thought people probably thought they would, excuse me. But of course, I mean, we were talking about DiVincenzo moments. Tristan Newton, sort of
Yeah.
security, just absolutely went off, which is fun to see. And Sanogo and Hawkins did their piece as well, but just a really good team effort from UConn. And it was cool to see Dan Hurley, get a ship and bring it home for the Huskies. I would say this probably does make them a certified blue blood. It is tough to break into that sort of category, but yeah, do you think they are at that moment yet?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, just with they've had 5 championships in the past, is it 20 years, 25
Yeah.
years? I mean, that's pretty impressive. I know a lot of the blue bloods like to hang their hats, Indiana especially, on just the storied history and the dusty banners, but I mean, they're proving it, in the present. So shout out to them. And I don't see any reason that the success has to stop. So it's weird. Like UConn has been like, they're either all in or they like just don't make the tournament, like that's kind of been their track record the past couple of years. But it's cool to see UConn get a dub. Like when the women aren't winning, I guess the men are winning. I guess that's their mantra now. So yeah, cool to see Dan Hurley and cool to see Bobby Hurley there too, supporting his brother. Shout out the Hurley brothers. But yeah, like you said, Newton, I mean, he was the leading scorer on this team. So for this game. So, Sanogo had 17 and 10, Hawkins had 16, but Newton went for a double, 19 and 10. So incredible. But yeah, like you said, San Diego State was hanging around at the beginning, they made a couple threes right at the jump, a couple unorthodox UConn turnovers to start the game. There was a crazy, I don't remember, was it San Diego State or UConn? They went for a jam and like the ball damn near went all the way into the backcourt. The ball off the back of the rim.
I think it was San Diego State. Yeah.
San Diego State went for a slam and it went all the way back, which reminds me, deflate your balls, NCAA tournament. Your balls are way too bouncy. Players and coaches all said that this year. So
really? Wow.
You can tell that people who have never like played basketball or touched a basketball inflated those balls all the way to the brim. So shout out to bouncy balls.
I love that. Sort of anti-deflate gate.
Yes.
Shout out Tom Brady.
Pro deflate gate.
That's funny. But yeah, I think overall the championship game was definitely pretty entertaining. I think it was one of the least viewed, excuse me, from the past few years, which does make sense. I mean, San Diego State, I don't think has a massive following. And I mean, UConn was like 7.5, 8.5 point favorites as well. So nobody expected too much. Yeah, another fun fact too. This was the second highest seeded Final Four of all time, and the only one that beat it was a UConn winning year as well, which is really weird. It was the 7 seeded Ryan Boatwright, Shabazz Napier versus the 8 seed Coach Cal Kentucky. So I guess in the past 10 years, it's either been a 1 seed who wins it all or UConn. So just some really weird statistical anomalies. But yeah, I think UConn is a certified blue blood at this point, and I think they have a very good chance of repeating next year, bringing back a lot of guys. Jordan Hawkins did just declare for the NBA draft like within the hour, I believe, which was not expected, but they're bringing back a lot of guys, and of course with the transfer portal, they will be making moves as well.
Yeah, I think I read something that the past 4 winners of the NCAA tournament were never at any point in the AP top 25 number 1 in the poll, which is kind of a wild stat. So next year, if your team is number 1, just see ya. Sorry, you have no shot.
Yeah, everyone's hoping they're not like the preseason number 1 team just because you're not winning at all. That's basically what it's telling you there. But awesome. And any other thoughts on the Final Four in general? Or
no, I mean, the narrative was UConn just dominated the whole tournament. I don't think there was ever really much of a question if they were going to win a game when tip happened, if in the Final Four, maybe a couple minutes. I mean, hey, Rick Pitino and the Gales, I think they were up at halftime, right, on UConn. Yeah. So, I mean, so you had that. And then I think after that, they figured it out and we're like, yeah, we're not fucking around anymore. Let's just do it. So, yeah, shout out to the Huskies. And excited to see what happens next year. And I think all these teams in the Final Four will be able to remain relevant and stay. I like Florida Atlantic. They're bringing back pretty much everybody too. Be on the lookout for them as well next year. So yeah, fun tournament. Our teams didn't make it. It's one of those things where like when your teams are out of it, then you're just like, okay, now I can just watch unabashedly unbiased and have a good time watching basketball. So
love that as well. We can just witness greatness a little bit and not be so
not experience it.
Yeah, not be so enthralled in losing, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But sweet. Great wrap up there. Just some small sort of tournament favorites that we're going to select as well, sort of wrapping everything up in the tournament wise. Just 3 quick ones: favorite team, favorite moment, favorite game of the tournament. You can definitely start off with favorite team. And I'll throw it over to you first. What was your favorite team of the tournament, Gary?
I loved my Owls, man. I loved Florida Atlantic. I loved watching them. I just loved them kind of proving the haters wrong again and again and again. And people aren't taking them seriously. Like when they lost, they're like, well, yeah, they had to lose, they're a mid-major, blah, blah, blah. They never make it. So I just enjoyed seeing them do that all the way to the Final Four. Kind of had a nice path for themselves set up when Purdue lost. So yeah, shout out my Owl, shout out Dusty May, who I think is going to remain at Florida Atlantic. So he's, at least as of now, very loyal. And a lot of people are saying, give Woodson another 5 years and then he's taking the Indiana job. So those are in the tea leaves, just so you know, Hoosier fans are chatting, but we'll see.
Yeah. I feel like Hoosier fans are always a little complacent with their coach. Anybody just like in the Indiana region who like has a good year, they're like, oh, bring him down.
Oh, that's in. And then there's always Brad Stevens murmurs as well. So you always got those going.
I would love to see that as well, to be fair. But yeah, I completely back it. I had 2 picks for this, and the FAU Owls were 100% my first pick as well.
Very nice.
Like you mentioned, it made it a lot easier to root for them too when they didn't have to face Purdue second round, and they were able to take out Fairleigh Dickinson, which I was pretty happy to see in general. And then continuing on their run after that was obviously super special. But you touched on it. My second team that I wanted to shout out as well was the K-State Wildcats.
Yeah.
I feel like this was kind of America's team, low key. Jerome Tang is kind of, in the national spotlight just with his, pregame, music selection, which is really, really fun. But just the duo of Marquise Noel and Keontae Johnson was absolutely electric every single game they were in. And specifically that Michigan State overtime thriller. With, of course, the no-look lob, which is going to be a March staple, I think, as well over the next 4 or 5 years, showing that just constantly. But yeah, those 2 teams, I think, were the most fun to watch, probably, which is all you can ask for.
100%. Back that.
Awesome. Moving on to the favorite moment. I'll kick us off for this one. I have a couple picks. I'll just shout out my first one. And I harped on it a bunch in our last episode, but it is going to be Furman versus Virginia.
Yeah.
Just there's something about that first couple games on the first day, and if a crazy upset happens, it's just unbelievably memorable in my opinion. And of course, Kihei Clark just throwing a grenade to nowhere, something I'll never forget either. And then of course the iconic call with that too. But yeah, the Furman Paladins, they didn't do much in the second round, but they were able to take down the Cavs in the first, and was definitely one of my faves of the tournament.
I had that one as well. Just a great tone setter, being the second game of the tournament. Every year you're just yearning for that buzzer beater when it's going to happen in the first round.
Yeah.
Was psyched to see it happen here. So yeah, that was a great game to watch. Great moment. Feel for Virginia, but great moment for the Paladins. But since I knew you wouldn't mention it, my favorite moment was Fairleigh Dickinson, Purdue.
Yeah.
Just pretty remarkable. I was watching that. I was out to dinner. They had a TV on and everyone was like, oh, what is this really going to happen? And yeah, it happened. So that was a pretty incredible moment. And then typical head coach, great success in the tournament, goes to a higher power school, ruins the school's momentum, everything, blah, 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 blah. Like St. Peter's now is dog water, from last year. So same story, same song, different verse. Now I forget where he went. Did he go to, I think Iona. Oh, yeah. That's right. Yeah. Cause Patino. Yeah. I went to Iona. So maybe you can get some stuff done there. We'll see. But yeah, Fairleigh Dickinson, that was really fun. And just watching the coach, kind of just blabber on and unfiltered. And he just kind of had a motor mouth. It was kind of fun to watch. So yeah. And then obviously they got their asses handed to them by the Owls. So yeah, that was my favorite moment with the Furman, Virginia. Really
definitely cool. A great pick. I mean, you can't argue against a 16 seed against one. That would have been mine if it would have been anybody else.
Anyone else?
So yeah, respect there. My second moment that I did want to quickly shout out as well. It's going to be the Arkansas Kansas game. I think again, it's just one of those, and I feel like down the road, like 5-10 years, like we'll just look back and I'll be like, what was going on in 2023 when Eric Musselman took his shirt off and started doing chants in front of the entire Arkansas crowd? That's also a really just great game overall, which we'll talk about next of some great games. But that moment at the end of Musselman waving his shirt around is going to be ingrained in my brain, I think, for the rest of the time. So
as it should.
Yeah, have to
for better or worse.
Yeah, exactly. But sweet. Moving on to our last category here. Favorite game of the tournament. I mean, you can name probably about 10 or 15 of these here, but I'll throw it over to you, Carter. What was your favorite game or favorite games?
I actually did just narrow it down to one. My favorite game pick was the UCLA Gonzaga game. That had a lot of juice going into it, you know, a rematch of sorts of a 2020 matchup, rivals, some West Coast rivals, and it really delivered. Gonzaga sneaks out with it and then just absolutely drops an egg in the next game, but doing the Villanova play, doing the Jay Wright play, just scooping it, shooting a logo three, just great stuff. Onions, and it was amazing. And Jaime Jaquez down the stretch. It was just a back and forth game, which is what you love to see. Like the defense kind of simmers away in the final 2 minutes and people just make unbelievable shots because they're just trying to will themselves to win. So yeah, tough loss for the Big Ten down the stretch, and we'll see if UCLA can boost our Big Ten resume in the tournament next year when we get them. So yeah, that was my favorite game for sure.
Great pick. Yeah, I would think they would help boost the Big Ten. That would be funny as well if like the first official Big Ten winner in like the past 20 years like was UCLA. I think that'd be really ironic. But yeah, great pick. Drew Timme, unbelievable that game, and then of course Strawther, unbelievable moment there too. I did have a couple games I wanted to shout out. I mean, the obvious one is San Diego State FAU. I feel like that will go down in tournament history. My more underrated one, which I will touch on a little bit more, is going to be the Elite Eight matchup of Miami versus Texas.
Nice.
I'll tell you what, man, these are just two unbelievable teams. And Miami being down like 10-15 deep into the second half, and then just going on a crazy run. I think it's one of the more underrated games. And one of those live that I was watching too that I feel like I'll remember for a long time as well. Shout out Jordan Miller, just absolutely went off, did not miss from the field that game. It's like 12 for 12 from the line as well. So a lot of fun moments there. But yeah, like I said, you could have picked 20 different games here and I would not have argued with you. So
yeah,
pretty great tournament overall. Yeah, one of the most chaotic and most fun in recent memory.
Definitely.
So that's our tournament wrap up. The next segment we're going to be going into here is talking about the transfer portal combat, as I've heard a lot of talk on Twitter. Just absolutely madness, kind of ensuing the season, which is so much fun, kind of like NBA free agency in a sense. But to start off too, we're actually going to play a little fun portal game from this past year. So we're going to name a couple of the people who were possibly, players in the tournament, pretty much just anybody in general who you want to bring up. And then you're going to give multiple choice options of where they had portaled from, and the other person is going to have to guess based off those options. Do you want to start, Carter? Or do you want me to throw one at you?
Throw one at me first. So let me get my juices flowing here.
All right, I got you. We're going to start off with one of our favorite teams that we talked about here, the FAU Owls, who did have a few transfers. But the one that I am going to focus on to start is going to be their starting shooting guard, Brian Greenlee, who, spoiler alert, actually came from a Big Ten team. And I don't know if you know which one it is, Carter, but my multiple choice for you is going to be the Michigan Wolverines, the Nebraska Cornhuskers, or the Minnesota Golden Gophers for Brian.
I was hoping one of them would be Indiana so I could eliminate that one. Brian Greenlee. Did this guy play? Did you know if he played at all? I don't remember this.
He did not.
No. Okay. I'm going to say, I'll just go with Fred Hoiberg. I'll go Nebraska.
Good guess. It is actually the Golden Gophers.
Oh, the Gophers.
It's surprising he didn't play because the past few years they have been unbelievably bad. But yeah, I didn't know that either. I was kind of just looking at FAU's roster, seeing if they did have a couple weird transfers. And shout out Brian Greenlee. I mean, one of their key guys, obviously, and probably it was a good move to leave, I would say. But yeah.
Shout out Big Ten, just getting rid of your players, send them to
Yes.
Florida. Very nice. Well, cool. I'll keep the trend going then. I have a player. His name is Jacob Grandison, and this season he played for Duke in the tourney,
Mhm.
and played might be a strong word, but he also came from a Big Ten school. It sounds like you might already know. I'm looking at you shaking your head. Um, do
Possibly.
you even want me to give you multiple choice, or are you gonna one
I,
up me here?
I'd love to hear your multiple choice.
All right, I'll give you some multiple choice. We got Iowa, Illinois, or Wisconsin.
Mm, good picks. I believe it is Illinois. I think he's on like their one seeded team COVID year as well as a freshman.
Yeah,
Uh,
he was.
yeah. So shout out Granderson. I think he's underrated. If Duke just doesn't like dominate the transfer portal every year, he probably would have played
Yeah.
a lot too. But they kind of just had a stacked roster with a lot of freshmen this year too.
Yeah, that's what the NIL turns into, all that stuff and the transfers. It is really wild, the transfer portal, man. And it used to be a thing where, like, if you didn't get a lot of playing time, you just go somewhere else and get some playing time, and it was kind of an opportunity. But now, like, guys, we'll get to that later, but like Hunter Dickinson and Caleb Love are just leaving to just try something new out. It is literally NBA free agency. It's ring chasing. It's wonderful stuff, isn't it? So,
It is. It's all about who can get you the most money in a sense too. But yeah,
of
love that.
course,
Love we both started out with some Big Ten transfers as well.
got
But I'll
to.
throw another one at you here. I'll go over to the Miami Hurricanes, which is obviously one of my favorite teams. Got to just keep them involved with the conversation, of course. But I'm going to throw Jordan Miller at you. I don't know if you do know this one. I don't make the multiple options a little bit hard as well. So for Jordan Miller, did he come from George Mason, George Washington, or Georgia?
Oh my God, you're hitting me with the Georgias, huh? Man, where did feel like I feel like I remember because there was like Larinaga ties to it. So I think it's George Mason.
Yeah, that is correct.
Nice.
It was just weird because I mean, the Larinaga definitely does still have ties with the university, I would guess.
Yeah.
It kind of just strange, like the two teams he's taken to the Final Four, and George Mason was like mid 2000s. He hasn't
Yeah.
been there forever, but he got a really good transfer from there. But yeah, shout out Jordan Miller, one of the most underrated players in the country, and kind of came from obscurity from George Mason. So pretty cool there.
Very nice. Well, cool. So I actually have an example of somebody who did transfer out of a bigger school to go to a smaller school to get some playing time. This guy's name is Quincy Adamokoya. Okay. He played for Kennesaw State in the tournament.
Okay.
And he came from one of these three schools. We have Temple, VCU, or UCF.
Mm. This is a really good one. You stumped me already.
It's an obscure one, man.
This is obscure. I love Kennesaw State was a good squad. I feel like for some reason I'm thinking Temple, so I'm just gonna guess that.
You would be correct, sir. The Temple
Wow.
Owls, baby. Yeah, I picked it just mainly because I loved his name, Quincy Adam Okoya. And yeah, he, against Xavier, he had 2 points in 15 minutes of gameplay. So
Nice.
went very obscure. It doesn't seem like he played very much for
Yeah.
them, but
Ben,
shout out to
ben,
him for trying to leave Temple and get some playing time, and just didn't really work out for him. He certainly played more games. He played 35 games, but
yeah.
averaged 4.5 points.
That's all you can ask for. Just get on the floor, and he's got to be at least an honorable mention on the all tournament name team as well.
Gotta
So
be.
love that for him as well. But great pick there. My last one I'll throw over at you. I feel like this one could be tough, but it's a pretty well known player. It's a Jabari Rice, somebody else who I just can't stop really talking about from Texas. Had an insane tournament overall and was my sixth man of the year in the tournament. But I'm not sure if you do know where he came from. It's kind of an obscure place. So my multiple choice is going to be the Boise State Broncos, the New Mexico State Aggies, or the UC Santa Barbara Gauchos.
Oh man, was he a Gaucho? Sounds like a Gaucho name. Yeah, I'll go UC Santa Barbara just for the Gaucho love because I love their jerseys.
True. They definitely made the all tournament jersey team. You watched our last episode. It is unfortunately not the Gauchos. It is New Mexico State.
Oh
And
man.
shout
Talk
out,
about a basketball program, huh?
yeah. Shout out the WAC. He was the WAC player of the year last year. But yeah, really great player. And kind of just cool to see too. Like I feel like mid-majors, like tournament, I mean, not tournament, mid-major players of the year in their conferences, like coming up and getting an actual chance and Power Five conferences, and then go off like Serge Aurier Rice did is really cool to see. But yeah, another just like really obscure one that I feel like normal people, even like college basketball fans, would have never guessed he would have come from New Mexico State. So
yeah, but shout out to the New Mexico State program who
yeah.
In a bad context. Season suspended this year. Tough looks, but
good thing he transferred too.
Yeah, it was probably good juju to get out. Cool. I'm gonna end on one you might know probably because I just wanted to pick another Big Ten guy, but his name is Frankie Collins. He played for Arizona State for our Hurley boy. Now, did he play for Michigan, Michigan State, or Minnesota?
Yeah, another good one. I do know this one just because it is Big Ten and it is the Michigan Wolverines.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a bad guard, and I believe he pretty much started every game for Arizona State this year as well. So good move, I would say.
Yeah, he played 31 games for the Wolverines last season. But yeah, I think he started every game for Arizona State. So heck of a player, probably a good decision to transfer out. So yeah, averaged 3 points with the Wolverines and averaged like 10 points with the Sun Devils. That's what we want to see. So nice.
Yeah, love that. Shout out Frankie.
Shout out.
Wow, so that'll conclude our fun little game talking about last year. The next segment's just going to be talking about all of the craziness in the transfer portal this year. So I'll just rattle off a few people who have already committed as well, to kind of talk about them. So first off the bat, I mean, right when the tournament pretty much started, midway point when teams lost, guys pretty much right away didn't even wait for the tournament to end as well, which was just madness. A few of the named guys, JJ Starling from Notre Dame, who is a highly touted prospect, is going to Syracuse, Boeheim list, but he's still going there for some reason. Past that, Jameer Nelson Jr., of course, the son of Jameer Nelson, who was in the tournament last year for Delaware. Not sure why he didn't transfer out last year, but he finally did this year, and he committed to TCU, which is going to be a lot of fun seeing him there. So
yeah,
definitely look out for him in the Big 12 next year. And then another one too, and then I'll throw it to you. But Jamison Battle, the another Minnesota Golden Gopher, who was kind of highly touted coming into the transfer portal. I think a lot of people wanted him. Ended up going to Ohio State, which I think was not really on a lot of people's short list. But of course, there's tons of a lot of smaller guys, who have come out, committed already too. But the big one, which was just announced today, and I definitely want to hear your thoughts on, it's of course Caleb Love. He committed to Michigan kind of out of nowhere. But I guess what are your general thoughts on that?
So yeah, people were prognosticating that it might happen that Caleb Love to IU. Archie recruited him when he was here. So there were some whispers there. Michigan kind of came out of the woodwork, I would say. I think down the stretch it was between Michigan and Missouri, and I believe Caleb Love is from Missouri, the state. I don't know if Columbia is near where he was from, but yeah, it came down to them, and I honestly think like UNC to Missouri is not even a lateral move, probably. Like I think UNC to Michigan is pretty level, and maybe my guy just loved Jordan Brand so much, so he was like, I just got to go to. I can't get out of to Adidas. I can't live the 3-stripe life, so maybe he just wanted to go to Michigan. But yeah, I think Juwan Howard, he's good at recruiting, and I think a lot of players like playing for him. It's going to be an interesting mix because they had who just committed today, also like Trey Jackson, I think too, from Michigan. So they've got a lot of weapons, but the question is going to be if they can work together and coincide. I was already imagining a world where Xavier Johnson and Caleb Love were playing point guard. And I that kind of scared me. So
yeah,
I'm a little happy it happened, but also it's nice to have just a guy who will unconsciously shoot the ball and usually make it kind of. So yeah, I'm excited to play him again in Assembly Hall this year and hopefully beat him. So that'll be a good time.
Well said there. I was a little bit surprised he didn't go to IU. I feel like that's kind of where the momentum was taking him. And yet, like you said, like Missouri was always in the hunt, but I never really took them too seriously. Dennis Gates, and especially last year too, he pretty much dominated the transfer portal. Yeah. So they had to be, of course, mentioned. But yeah, Michigan kind of just RKO out of nowhere, I feel like today. Juwan Howard can recruit. Like you said, he in the past few years, he's gotten tons and tons of like 5-star prospects. And this is a massive get from the portal. So I expect, them to keep hunting. Obviously, another guy we will talk about, Hunter Dickinson, sort of has left their front court, with a lot of availabilities. So I think they will continue to do some work in the portal, but I think a lot of people hate on Juwan Howard, and I think he's doing a lot of good things for the Michigan program. So shout out to him. As long as he just doesn't fight other head coaches after the games, I think he'll be fine. That's his biggest issue, I'd say, right now.
That's a big if. Yeah.
But yeah, player like relationship sort of stuff, I feel like he's super strong in. So shout out him as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Sort of the next thing that we're going to get into, just all the people who have entered the transferred portal, and maybe make some broad predictions on where they're going to go. Obviously, this is impossible to tell where these people are going to go. There's so many people who are talking to all these players at the same time, but we'll throw in our 2 cents just for shits and giggles. But yeah, just to list off sort of the names here, and then we can definitely go through them. This is according to tons of people, but the top prospects available in the transfer portal currently: Max Abmas, however you want to say his name, from, of course, Oral Roberts, averaging 20 plus. Hunter Dickinson, junior center from Michigan. LJ Cryer, which is a massive surprise for me. Really good guard from Baylor. Possibly the biggest surprise of them all, Ryan Nemhard from Creighton, which is another recent one too. And everyone sort of expected, Creighton's starting 5 all to come back, because that is a ridiculously good squad. But he's out. Ace Baldwin, A10 player of the year out of VCU. Kellel Ware, the 7-footer from Oregon, who's a 5-star recruit, a top prospect. Tons of other guys. Joe Girard too. That's kind of a small one from Syracuse, but I like him, so I wanted to throw him in there. But yeah, I guess we can start off with Max Abmas in general. Do you have any general predictions or just thoughts on him?
Well, I will always lean to, like, I fully believe if Paul Mills had stayed, or Roberts' coach, who just got the Wichita State job, I think Max probably would have stayed. Maybe, I don't know. He seems like a loyal guy. So part of me wants to just say, I'm going to throw my hat and say he's going to Wichita State. Like, I think he can, if him and Paul Mills can shine there and kind of bring themselves back up from a run they had some relevancy a couple of years ago, kind of been on the down slope since then. So my heart says Wichita State right now, but can I just keep throwing Indiana and all of these too? Like, we'd love him. We'll love to take him. So I'll say Indiana also.
I think you'd actually be a really good fit at IU as well. I think they were hunting, big time for Caleb Love, maybe to that 2-guard spot. Obviously, with Xavier Johnson coming back, they don't really need a point guard, but they kind of just need a high volume scorer next to X in the backcourt, I would say. That's a good shout. Wichita State, I think, is the obvious one just because of the coach's movement. And yeah, like you said, they are a good program too. They haven't really shown it the past 3 or 4 years, but I mean, the 2010s VCU was maybe one of the best programs in the country. So I'd like to see them come back. Shout out Shocker Nation. But a couple other landing spots you could go as well. I've heard a lot of K-State murmurs, because they're going to hit the portal, pretty hard as well, with losing a couple of key guys there. I've heard a lot about Baylor, the Baylor Bears losing LJ Cryer. They're going to be looking for guys as well in the backcourt. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure basically everyone in the country is going to be looking after this guy, which is something we may say for, a lot of the guys coming up as well. But I'd say if you're a betting man, Wichita's definitely the way to go.
For sure.
Moving along to the next one, another massive surprise. Hunter Dickinson is leaving Michigan. And like you said, I feel like this one does have to do with money more than anything else, just because he could have gone to the draft likely the past 3 years and he hasn't, and now he's just like, I might as well make as much NIL money as possible before I go undrafted. Yeah, any thoughts on where he might go? I know there's definitely a few that are pretty obvious here.
So I kind of have 2 on the radar. The first being Maryland, who would stick in the Big Ten, which is always, that just seems like a shitheel move that Hunter Dickinson would do, because he's kind of an ass. The reason, because they Maryland just hired his former high school coach, or he was coaching at Virginia Tech, Mike Jones. Maryland just hired him, so there's probably some synergy there. And then if not, because also Dickinson's one of these DMV guys, played high school ball there. So I'm thinking maybe if there's some waves for Georgetown there with their new hire as well. So I would consider them as well, but it just depends if he wants to stay and kind of be like I'm going to go scorch earth on Michigan, actually. But I feel like he likes Michigan, though. I feel like he loves Michigan. So I would see him maybe going to Georgetown. But if I were a betting man, I'd maybe do Maryland. I don't know. But what do you think?
those are definitely the two that I think are at the top of his list. I think Duke is in consideration as well, just because they are looking for a big. Derek Lively looks like, well, I don't know if he should go to the draft, but it looks like he is going to. So they do have a hole in that center spot, it seems. But yeah, out of Maryland and Georgetown, I would lean possibly to Georgetown, just because kind of bringing that program up from his obscurity would be a pretty cool thing, I think, for him.
Yeah,
And Maryland, I mean, Maryland is returning Jameer Young though, which is massive. And I
that's
mean, like you
huge.
said, you mentioned the high school coaches, which is pretty important as well. It's a toss up, I think, between those two really, but I think I would lean a little bit towards Georgetown just because I think that'd be a lot cooler spot for him.
Very
Uh,
nice.
but sweet. Moving on here. Let's go over to Ryan Nemhard. And I'll start us with this one. This was a shocker. Like I had mentioned, I don't think many Creighton fans thought he was gonna enter it. Sort of a 2-year guy there already. They handed him the keys. I mean, I think he was playing around 35, 40 minutes a game last year. Yeah, I would assume pretty much everybody's gonna go after this guy. The couple that I've heard big time off the bat here. First off, Gonzaga.
Mhm.
Obviously, his brother, that's where he attended school, and they are going to be looking for some guards. I know their one guard, Salas, has entered the portal, and I think Strother was a senior. I don't know. He's been there forever. He should be
Yeah.
not. But they're always going to hit the transfer portal hard as well. It's Gonzaga. The second one that I've heard a lot too is actually Arizona. I mean, they lost Courtney Ramey, obviously being a senior, who was a transfer, and then Kirk Risa, which I don't know if that's necessarily a big loss for them, but just means they need guards.
Yeah, it
Uh,
might help him.
yeah, but Nemhard would be a big time get for them. But yeah, any other teams for you that kind of stand out of where you could go?
Yeah, those are the only since this one's so fresh. I think those are the only two really on my radar. But like you said with Zona, Carissa went to West Virginia, which by the way, that seems like a really random spot for Carissa to land. I don't
Yeah,
know if him and Bobby Huggins are gonna meld very well, but we'll see there. But yeah, I think because there's still that Gonzaga connection with Tommy Lloyd, who was an assistant probably when his brother played also. So I would lean either of those two. It just depends if he wants to be warm or if he wants to be wet, I guess. So Gonzaga would be a little rainy. Arizona would not be. So in Midwest, you kind of get all of that. So maybe we'll see if he leans more than the other. But yeah, I would imagine everyone's going after this guy because he's a true point guard. And if you're missing a point guard, then you might want this guy. I would agree with you. I don't either Arizona or Zags.
yeah, 100%. And I will throw this out there as well. I mean, I'm on Purdue Twitter, but there have been some murmurings of wanting to recruit him just because him and if Edie does come back, they're
Right.
both on like that Canada whatever U21 team that had success in the Olympic nationals or whatever.
Oh, nice.
But that's definitely not going to happen. But anyways, moving swiftly on though, talk a little bit about LJ Cryer. I think one of the more underrated people in the portal, and kind of the same situation. Everybody wants him. Gonzaga is definitely up there. Houston, I've heard, is really coming after him hard. Jamal Shed needs a new backcourt pairing, and Arkansas as well. Musselman, he's going to do a lot in the portal, I think, too. Basically, everybody in the Big 12, I believe, wants this guy too.
Yeah.
K-State, Kansas, all the big guns are definitely going after. Oklahoma State, I think, was going after him hard, just because like they've seen him the most, obviously. And they know like how good this guy is. So there's a lot of names and contentions, but anybody in there you like as like a favorite for them?
I like Houston for sure. I think that's good. Arkansas, just by the way, Arkansas has made contact. Do you know how many players Arkansas has made contact with in the transfer portal?
That's a good question. I'll guess like 150.
Well, 84. That's but still absurd. Like, can you what if all of them commit? But yeah, so Arkansas, is going after a lot of people, and I wonder if that's gonna it probably won't hurt them in the long run, but they just had their hand in a lot of cookie jars. I like Houston. I like K-State, but a couple Big Ten teams too. Indiana's going after him too, and as well as Illinois and Nebraska. I don't see him going to Nebraska, but that might happen. Illinois has been a big landing spot for a bunch of transfers, especially last year. And there's also that Baylor connection with Meyer coming from Baylor to Illinois and had some success. So could see some of that going on, but if not, I think Houston. But it just depends if he wants to stay in state but go to a different conference or something like that. So if that's the case, I'd go Houston. If he doesn't want to, if he's one of those guys that wants to play against his teammates, then then I don't know. We'll see. Those guys always fascinate me, who just decide to go in conference somewhere else. They're like, oh, do they even ever really mesh here or like us? But yeah, so I like Houston.
Yeah, I would probably back that as well. My favorite there would be Houston. I think Illinois is a really good shout. Obviously, Terrence Shannon coming from the Big 12 too.
Yeah.
And of course, the Matthew Meyer connection, like you said. I love how Nebraska is kind of just involved in all these people. Kirk Risa also took a visit to Nebraska. I think everybody
Yeah.
wants to play with Tomaninga, who's electric. I love him.
Oh, yeah. I
But-
would play with him. Absolutely.
oh,
He's awesome.
but yeah, Cryer again, kind of the same thing with Nemhart. He could literally go anywhere, and I would not be too surprised.
Mhm.
Past that, moving on to not necessarily a couple of the smaller ones, maybe the smaller names. We can definitely start off with Kella Ware, who of course is that Oregon recruit, and I definitely want to throw it over to you because IU is heavily involved in this contest, and would probably be my pick off the bat of the most likely place he's going to go.
Yes, he had an in campus visit this week. As we're recording this, he was in Bloomington today.
Oh,
He's off to Alabama now, just making the rounds. But yeah, there's a lot of buzz because Kalel Ware was down here, as well as I believe the Harvard guy, Chris Ledlam, was in town as well from Harvard, and there's one other guy in town. I don't remember who it was, but yeah, we have obviously some big shoes to fill in Trace Jackson Davis and Race Thompson. We don't really have any bigs right now except Malik Renew coming back, who played a little sheepish at times and played like a true freshman and a little inconsistent, but I think can develop. But he needs some help. We've got that kind of, and we picked up a Ball State big I think a week or two ago. So we're definitely, those are the spots we're looking to fill first and foremost. So yeah, 7-footer from Oregon, a former 5-star would be a great start. It does concern me a little bit when Woody was talking about how he never like had to like play through a big guy before, and we had to do that with Trace. Like in the NBA, he just like never did that with the Knicks or the Hawks or anything. So it'd be interesting to see like what he can do with him. Obviously, I think he's better at developing guards per se, maybe. But I like him. He looks good. I watched some clip on him today, obviously. So I would love to have a nice 7-footer that if Edie stays or if he declares. I don't think Edie is portaling. I think it's either he declares or stays. I don't know what the Purdue vibe is and the tea leaves over there. But if Edie's staying, it would be nice to get a 7-footer in here with people like Dickinson leaving the conference too, and the Rutgers guy that I don't know how to pronounce his last name. So it'd be nice to get some bigs in there and help out. So
Cliff Amore, I believe is what you're talking about.
yeah,
But yeah, I think IU is heavy favorites, or at least betting odds probably right now. And yeah, in theory, if Edie does come back, I mean, that's going to be a hell of a matchup a couple times a year. So
that'll be
that'd be
fun.
pretty hype. But I do agree. I think Woody, he does like his guards. I mean, I think that really shows in Jalen Hood-Schifino this year, just his
Definitely.
improvement from the first couple games to where he was at even mid-season, I think is astronomical. But yeah, I would be surprised if he didn't go to IU. Obviously, like you said, he is taking a visit to Bama, which another just like low-key school who I feel like really hits the transfer portal hard. And they've lost a lot of key guys too, obviously Gunboy. So they're going to be
Boy.
shout out Brandon Miller, but they're going to be involved in a lot of this as well. And of course, the muscle man, he's here too. Arkansas has been in heavy talks with Ware as well, and Memphis has got some rumblings too. Shout out Penny, who I think is one of the better low key recruiters, not in a Power 5 for sure.
Definitely,
I think could make an impact on this as well. I low-key does hope he goes to IU. I think that'd be a really good fit for him. But yeah, like you said, just crazy athletic 7-footer. He could have gone to the NBA this year and probably been a late first round pick. But yeah, might as well come back and try and be like a top 5 pick next year. So I think that's kind of the best choice for him overall, anyways. Moving on. I mean, we can throw out pretty much anyone we want here. The last guy who I did want to name was Ace Baldwin, who he's a good player. He was the A10 player of the year at VCU. I mean, he only averaged like 12 points a game, though, so it's not like a massive star coming out of this conference. But he's gotten a lot of people talking to him. I think Maryland and Penn State have been the two that I've seen the most. I've also, shout out Aiden Cotter. I've seen Dayton throwing out a bunch too. I don't know why he would do that, but I think all the fans just want him there. But my pick probably would be Penn State. I think Penn State is going to be active. Obviously, losing Micah Shrewberry is a big loss. I think a lot of the younger guys may be on the way out. So bringing in, a lot of, maybe mid-major guys would be the right way to go. Yeah. Any thoughts on Ace?
I agree with you. I think Penn State because Shrewsbury's gone, but who they hired was the VCU coach. So
Yeah.
I think that would seem like the best fit, playing a little bit bigger ball in Big Ten basketball, and yeah, I think since he succeeded under Rhodes, I think is his name, the Paul. I don't know if it's Paul Rhodes, but
Maybe
Rhodes is
I don't know.
Mike Rhodes maybe. But yeah, I think they're gonna need some guard play. They're probably losing all those guys. So yeah, they're gonna need some guards. They're gonna need probably everybody, I think. So yeah, if to keep that program in the right direction, I think it'd be a good spot for him to be. So yeah, I think Penn State.
Yeah, I bag it. Any other transfers you wanted to talk about at all? That was pretty much my list.
Be on the lookout for Caden Shedrick too, from Virginia. Yeah. Also kind of a big name.
I believe he actually committed to Duke.
Did he commit already? Oh, nice.
Yeah, I think that was a massive, again, sort of that in-conference transfer, which is really weird. But yeah, good player. I think Virginia's going to miss him a lot. So I guess Duke does have a center. Maybe Dickinson won't go there because of that. But yeah, that's a really weird one. I thought I definitely want to know more of the backstory, sort of.
Yeah, that's crazy. And yeah, we kind of rattled through all the ones. I think L. Ellis just declared today too from Louisville.
He's good.
So he's like their best. He was their best player all year. He was just stuck on a team that was just had no weapons around him and had just a coach who was just like, yeah, I just love being here, So yeah, I think he'd be a good asset for anybody. Dude can ball. So we'll see if he floats around somewhere. And I don't know where he's from. So I don't know if he wants to hover around Kentucky or if like Kentucky swoops in there or something like that, or a smaller school, maybe a Memphis or a Tennessee or something. But we'll see there. Be on the lookout for that. I don't know if Jaden Epps is a crazily sought after from Illinois point guard. He was kind of pretty hit or miss all year, kind of inconsistent. But if you're looking for a point guard with Big Ten caliber play, might be on the lookout for him. I also had Joe Girard written down.
Nice.
For some reason, I don't know. He just something about that goatee, man. It gets to you. So yeah, look out for him. And then I already mentioned Chris Ledlum because I think IU's going after him pretty hard from Harvard.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last one is Hakeem Hart from Maryland, also out Portland somewhere. But those were kind of the big-ish names. And again, Arkansas's made contact with 84, so maybe all these people go to Arkansas. Who knows? But it's electric. There's a lot of names out there still, and a lot of time before the deadline when people have to make their decision. So it's exciting and scary also because you get your hopes up and then you're crushed. So I don't like to read too much into the tea leaves of where people think they're going, if IU's on that list. So I just like to be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, well said. And yeah, it's going to be really, really fun to see how it shapes out, but definitely a crazy start to the portal altogether.
Sure.
But moving on to our last little segment of the show here, we're just going to do a quick prediction, kind of the way too early top 25 of college basketball. They always do that. We're just going to do it way too early, a couple teams that we really like for next year. And we're going to say just teams not named UConn as well, because obviously they are bringing back some guys and, going back to back, that's hard to do, but kind of boring to talk about. But yeah, I'll let you start us off. And I will be, well, actually, no, I won't be boring. But the first two I did want to mention as well, FAU and Miami, if nobody transfers out, those are super obvious ones. So just throw those out there. But past those, my first pick is actually going to be Arizona, who obviously we were talking about. They lost Ramey. They lost Kirk Kriisa, which again, I think is probably a good thing for them. But they still have Tubelis. They still have Ballo, which I think is not really fair still. The two best bigs in the country. And sort of after like an upset year, obviously they lost to Princeton in the first round, which is unbelievably embarrassing, even coming from a Purdue fan. Come on now. But I think after like a big upset, teams usually tend to bounce back a little bit. The most obvious case, Virginia, UMBC, the next year they'd come back and win it all. I don't think that's going to be Purdue this year. So the other big upset was Arizona. So I'd say that they're definitely a team to look out for. If Tubelis is, can stay healthy and, Ballo keeps doing what he's doing, they're going to be a tough team to see in March. But yeah, that would be my first pick.
I like that. I like that a lot. Kind of on a similar vein, but not major. I'm going Marquette here. They're return. They had an early exit in the tournament to a really good and hot Michigan State team. but I don't think that should overshadow that these guys were the Big East regular season and tournament champions this year. Then they have a really good chance of running the whole thing back. You know, there are some guys that have fringe cases maybe of making the draft, but like Tyler Kolek's going to be back. I think Cam Jones is coming back. Will almost certainly return. So they already had one of the best offenses. And I think that they can very much run it back. And I think Shaka now is, you know, he's got a little taste of success, and he had a Shaka-esque exit in the tournament as he always does. But I don't think that should mean that they won't be good in the regular season, because Shaka always delivers in the regular season. That's for sure. So I'll be on the lookout for Marquette next year.
Yeah, I like that pick a lot. I mean, low-key, maybe, I mean, obviously the Big 12, but maybe the best conference in the country, low-key, especially tournament-wise this year. And yeah, they've won the Big East regular season and the Big East tournament. Like you said, not easy to do. So I like them as well. My second team, kind of a sleeper pick here, and maybe a little bit unpopular, but I'm going to throw out North Carolina.
There we go.
I think losing Caleb Love, sort of like Kirk Risa, is going to help them.
Yeah.
I was pretty surprised that RJ Barrett and Baycott both are coming back for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, hopefully, I mean, we can hope that Baycott is going to be healthy. Who knows if that's going to happen? But if he is, I think they could be dangerous. They have a really nice recruiting class coming in as well. It looks like they're starting five as of now. I mean, they're going to go for the transfer portal as well. They always do. But as of now, it looks like they would be starting 3 freshmen and then 2 super seniors. So I kind of like that mix for them as well. Kind of just that new sort of fresh blood coming into and kind of changing up their offensive style, which I think is a must as well. But yeah, kind of just a sleeper. North Carolina, I think they'll be back next year.
I like it. I think it's like it's one of those prove it years. I think, you know, we had the success, then we soiled it. Now let's make sure we can actually run this back, and without all the expectations of being like number one and all that. I think the expectation is like middle of the pack to start, and then they'll prove their worth and bump up. So I'm with you there. I'm with you.
Also, them being ranked preseason number one probably didn't help like their team chemistry. But yeah, it's definitely a prove it or lose it year, I think, for Hubert. So hopefully he stays around. I think he's an okay coach.
Yeah. Then my second team, one to look out for. We were talking about them heavily in transfer news. I think Arkansas can really make a run. I think that this Arkansas team could have been a much different team if Trayvon Brazile, you know, tore his ACL towards the end of the season and sidelined him for the remainder. So, and he announced he is coming back. So I think that, you know, they're probably going to lose Ricky Council, I would assume. He hasn't, I don't think has he declared yet? I don't know if he has yet.
I think he did the past couple of days.
Did he? Okay. Well, so, I mean, that was to be expected. So I still think that, you know, Arkansas will reload in the portal. They've been known to do that. They've got some good freshmen coming back, or sophomores, and, you know, I think they can make an immediate impact. So I would look out for that. And I would look out for Brazile to have another one of those, like, prove it years to kind of build up his resume too. So as much as I, you know, dislike the Must Bus, it's hard not to get off it. So I'll go with Musselman and the Hogs.
I like that too. And like you said, all the people they've reached out to, they're going to get a couple of good transfers, I would think. Definitely one to look out for. Woo Pigs. But awesome. That will wrap up Pick and Roll episode 4. Another fun one. I want to thank all you guys if you're still, you know, kicking around here and listening. Also, make sure to check out KHAP and the Rough Cut Retrospective. I believe that you guys actually just, and I think we did too, actually. I think we both released a new episode in the past couple days here. So definitely check those out. I believe you guys did Psycho, right? That's definitely one I'm going to have to check out.
Yes, we did. Psycho's out today, wherever you get your podcasts.
Nice. Love that. Obviously, check out RCR and KHAP. And let us know if you want more Pick and Roll. So like we were saying in the past episode, this is a show that, you know, we definitely enjoyed doing. Something I think we definitely can continue, but obviously let us know if that's something you guys would want to see. But yeah, past that, appreciate you listening. Thanks a lot. Peace.